As the discussion continues over the NFL shows and displays of unity and solidarity yesterday, we bring in former NFL player and former Green Beret, Nate Boyer. Nate, good morning. Thanks for joining us today. Let me ask you this first. What was your reaction to what you witnessed from around the NFL yesterday?
I mean, it was an interesting day for sure. I mean, just from those images right there, you see, how diverse our country is, not just in skin color, but in thought and in the way we feel about everything that's going on right now. It always hurts me personally to see a protest during the anthem and the when they raise the flag because of what it means to me. But those are absolutely those people's rights. And, I was inspired by multiple situations yesterday, whether it was teams embracing one another. I was inspired by Alejandro Villanueva, from the Steelers, who came out of the locker room on his own. And, he served 3 tours in Afghanistan as a Ranger. And to stand out there during the colors, I mean, there was a lot of that. And but I don't think anything was necessarily bad or negative. And that was a good thing to see. I mean, I was maybe a little bit worried about that. And my biggest fear in this whole process and what's going on right now is that, a lot of these guys are now just protesting the president, and I don't think during the national anthem is a time to protest the president, because the president is not the national anthem. The national anthem and the flag don't represent one man. It represents 350 million Americans, and we're all so diverse, man, whether you're black, white, gay, straight, Republican, Democrat, any religion, it doesn't matter. It represents you if you're an American, and even if you're not, and the hope for that. And so that's my biggest worry, because to me, that 3 hours in a stadium is a time of unity and us coming together. But at the same time, hey, we got a lot going on in our country right now, and I will absolutely support these voices as long as there's action behind those words.
Well, Nate, it's interesting you bring up the flag in that particular context, because you were critical, you were involved with Colin Kaepernick when he went from sitting during the national anthem to kneeling because he didn't want to show disrespect. But having served in the U.S. Army as a Green Beret, let me ask you this question. Does the flag represent the military or the American people?
It represents the American people.
Okay, then if that's the case, Nate, then why are critics saying that when you don't stand, you are disrespecting the military?
That some critics are saying that.
Most critics who are very vocal of Colin Kaepernick in particular, but other players as well, that's the first thing they go to. They talk about the people who've lived, who served and also died to protect that flag. My father included in the U.S. Army. So that's what I'm trying to get past a question of discussion here. Does it represent the American people or the military itself?
Well, I mean, the reason we started playing the Star-Spangled Banner was to honor the military. The reason we started playing it at sporting events was to honor the military back in World War I during the World Series, 1917 World Series. And that's where that tradition began, and it was about the military at that time. So the flag and the anthem are not political, and they shouldn't be political. There's no policy in what they represent. It represents the people, just like you say. So I mean, that's a tough one. It's obviously an issue, a complicated issue, or we wouldn't be having these discussions. But for me, it doesn't represent, it's not the Army song or, the Marine Corps anthem or whatever. We have our own songs. But at the same time, it is a unifying thing. That flag is what we wear on our arm. And that song represents that flag, and that's what we fight for. We fight for those freedoms. We fight for our people. And we fight for those that can't fight for themselves in other places. They don't have what we have here. So I am elicited a certain emotion when I see that, you know what I mean? When I see the anthem, when I hear the anthem, when I see that flag, and but at the same time, like you said, with that conversation with Colin, the fact that he was willing to listen and go to a knee versus sitting, I thought was huge, because it's showing, look, I'm willing to give a little bit now, right? And I think we need to keep heading in that direction, reaching across to people you don't agree with, and having those conversations and trying to move forward, because man, it hurts right now. It's like we're picking teams for dodgeball, and you have to be on this side of the line or that side of the line, and everyone's pulling at you, and you can't stand in the middle anymore. It's like you're in this radical place, being in the middle, and I get attacked from every angle because I'm trying to listen to everybody and be balanced. And it's like, why is that the bad? Why is that being the bad guy? I'm frustrated, brother. I'm frustrated.
And a lot of people are on both sides of this particular issue, no matter where you stand. Over the last couple of days, you were in Cincinnati, or at least with the Bengals, I believe, Nate, talking to some of those players and coaches. What were some of the sentiments they shared with you as it related to what was happening prior to Sunday's game in response to the criticism from the president?
Yeah, I mean, I was so impressed with that team and those guys. You know, there's players in that team that have done things in their past that I'm sure they're not proud of and all that. But the amount of respect they granted us, we had some military out there speaking to those guys. The amount of respect they granted to us, and the fact that they were willing to hear our perspective in relation to the flag and what that meant to us, and why it was important for us to stand. But also the fact that we were like, hey, this is what we fought for. We fought for your rights and your freedoms, to do what you feel you need to do. And they appreciated that too. And just that conversation, and by the end of it, we had some of the military and some of those football players come up to each other and be like, hey man, I never thought about that. I'm glad you shared that with me today. I never thought of it from that perspective in that way. And sports and politics, I don't know whether they should be lumped together or they should be completely separated. I don't know. But as individuals, I was very impressed with a lot of those athletes and those young men and the way that they stuck together as a team going through a hard time on the field, but also how open-minded everybody was and how everyone was just willing to hear a different perspective and a different side of things.
I think a conversation and multiple discussions going forward is what we all want to get to some type of remedy to this situation. Nate Boyer involved in some of those conversations himself and joining us here on SportsCenter. Nate, appreciate the time.